Saying I do in New York City can come with a hefty price tag, but in theory, there's one thing money can't buy.
Well, it's official. He's married.
Your name in the paper of record.
Sunday is the one day a week you get the single woman sports pages, the New York Times wedding section.
Journalist, author and socialite Holly Peterson saw her own wedding announcement in the New York Times in 1994. The highly selective wedding section is a Times-honoured tradition dating back to the paper's very first edition in 1851.
Holly Peterson, the daughter of Peter G. Peterson.
That's Peter G. Peterson, the billionaire investment banker.
The bridegroom's mother, an Episcopal minister, performed the ceremony at Wave Hill in Riverdale, the Bronx. I shouldn't have put the Bronx in.
Why did you say that?
Because it sounds, it sounds like outer hinterland or something.
Manhattan is the only borough that counts for one group of New Yorkers, the same people who hold the New York Times vows section sacred.
I think having your wedding announced in the Times is a very important entree into adulthood in a certain sector of society in New York.
It's basically a Wall Street game, and if you're an investment banker, you got a good chance of getting in.
Software programmer Todd Schneider decided to track exactly who else makes it in.
Certainly, Ivy League schools, that helps. It's fine, Yale, Harvard, Brown.
Todd, Yale class of 2002 himself, analysed 60,000 announcements in the Times dating back to 1981 to create his website, weddingcrunchers.com.
So here is a combined Democrat and Democratic versus just Republican.
Then the site scrapes the words every mention in the announcement section, allowing users to track trends over the years. And it's not just the political landscape that's changed.
And, back in the 80s, there were just far more references to kind of New England elitism. So there were lots of boarding school references. Episcopal was like the top religious mention. And now you see things like, Hindu ministers. Another good one was the tech, so like Google. If you compare Google and like Goldman Sachs, Goldman Sachs has always been sort of very popular among wedded couples. But in recent years, Google has actually surpassed it.
Perhaps the biggest break from tradition was in 2002, when the New York Times started announcing same-sex commitment ceremonies.
Now that gay marriage is legal, they just call it marriage, so it's harder to detect.
Despite so many shifts over the years, Schneider says family pedigree still trumps all.
This was a big society wedding that I actually went to when I was a baby.
Part of, I think, why this whole thing is amusing is that the New York Times is definitely this liberal, progressive institution. They pride themselves on that. And yet, at the same time, you can't get in unless you tell them what your parents do for a living.
Here we are, wedding section.
Courtney Adams hopes to follow her family tradition.
My mother and stepfather were announced there. There's a couple other people in her family.
Her mother is former WCBS New York news anchor Carol Martin. According to Wedding Crunchers, those with media connections are often featured in the Times. Adams, an advertising exec, will tie the knot this September, but for her, the wedding certificate simply isn't enough.
It's a keepsake, it's an acknowledgement on a larger level. It's the golden egg, I guess.
Well, honestly, I've never heard of it before, but she's done a good job relaying how important it is to her. If it's important to her, it's important to me.
Perhaps that kind of sentiment bodes better for the couple's future than making it into the Times.
A destination wedding?
Here at the Wedding Salon Expo, most of the brides-to-be don't have a TV anchor mum or Mayflower connections, but that's not stopping hotel receptionist Patricia Castillo.
I'm going to send my engagement pictures and hopefully we'll be able to make the New York Times.
For brides like Castillo, their kinship is more with Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte and Samantha, and that's what's fueled their dreams.
I love Sex and the City, and then Charlotte, she put her story on the Times. So it's something I've always wanted to do because I feel like my story, the way I love my fiance, it's like a fairy tale.
Just because Patricia Castillo's fairy tales come true doesn't mean she and her Prince Charming will grace the royal pages. At least Holly Peterson's skeptical.
They don't do the delivery man in that section who proposed to the pizza girl. They don't do that.
It used to be. It was every wedding that we worked on. Can you get us? Can you get us? What can we do?
Today, luxury wedding planner Tatiana Byron says many of her clients think the Times vows section is old news.
It's very archaic. Today, they literally will change their status on Facebook. They will put up a website. They will announce it on Twitter. It's just a different ballgame. That the social revolution has arrived.
Peterson's crowd doesn't do revolutions.
Social media is irrelevant to the stature of the vows section in the New York Times. You're either in it or you're not in it. It doesn't matter what happens on your Facebook page at all. There's a lot of brides in New York who are quite desperate to be mentioned. In there, it's not only to get in, it's the placement on the page that counts.
Whether front and centre, in print or online, that announcement remains forever, sometimes outliving the marriage. If you were ever to remarry, is it something that you would like to do again?
If I got remarried, would I try to put it in the Times? I think I would. I think I would. I like to think I've grown older and I don't care about such silly things, but I think I do. I think I would. And I think I'd want it prominently placed on the page.